You know, I don't think I've ever played a video game that was so in love with jerking itself off before. Hideo Kojima, the man, the legend, the complete and utter whack job of a game designer. You know you've been playing a Kojima game where after 3 hours you realize that you've only actually played the game for 30 minutes.
Kojima is best known for his work with the Metal Gear games, which have gotten weirder and weirder as the series went on. He was going to work on Silent Hills, which looked promising but was cancelled, and Konami downgraded Kojima from employee to contractor, or something like that, and severed ties with him after Metal Gear Solid 5. The biggest complaint from Konami was that Kojima wastes way too much money, and considering that Sony pretty much gave Kojima a blank check for Death Stranding to be a PS4 exclusive for a year, yeah, I guess I could see that. I will say right now that this is the best looking game I've seen all year. And this may be very well the best looking game I've seen all this generation. Norman Reedus looks like Norman Reedus. And I'm not calling him Sam, it's Norman Daryl Reedus. It almost looks to the point where I'm asking myself, am I playing a game or watching a TV show? Kojima really knows how to have 3D models not have that rubbery looking skin that most games have. The sound is amazing, the music is atmospheric, the voice acting is great, but graphics and sound are two things that Kojima games nail pretty well, so there's nothing I could say that would need to be improved. As for gameplay, I don't think that it would be fair to call it Fetch Quests the game, because that's not entirely what it is. Now that is the main method of story progression, as what you are doing is taking packages from one place to another place, and then connecting the underground cities to each other. You're basically connecting people's Wi-Fi together in a single network. There's stealth elements of the game which are fun and can get pretty pulse pounding when you're in a BT infested area. BTs are these ghost monster things that are pretty much one of the things you need to avoid. You crouch and you hold your breath to make sure they can't find you, otherwise they'll be dragging you down into this black goop that they create. And your bridge baby, or BB, can detect them with this weird little armature thing that will point towards them. These parts can be really tense, especially when you see something in the distance you want, like a lost package, and it's surrounded by a wall of BTs, and then you have to get in and get out. There's also human enemies that are porters that have gone insane and are obsessed with packages, wanting to steal them for themselves, and they have devices that'll ping your stuff, and then they'll be after you. Because you get no weapons in the beginning of the game, and when this first happened to me, at the time I didn't equip any of the pee and poop grenades. Oh yeah, this game is weird by the way. I hightailed it out of that area until they gave up, and it felt really good to outsmart these guys by climbing up a mountainside and then using a rope to climb down the cliff someone had left behind. But there's so many other little systems in place for this game to make it more believable. So if you're on the fence about this game and what I have previously just said enticed you into purchasing it, you may want to hear this part. First thing is, the menus are overly complicated. I found myself selecting and deselecting things accidentally, or I accidentally went back because I didn't hold the X button to confirm. Whatever happened to just hitting the X button to select a bunch of stuff, then put it into your inventory? And once it's there, just press circle to go back. Why do I need to hold to confirm that this is the stuff I want? If I made a mistake, I'll just go through the process again and remove what I didn't want, just by hitting the X button. I don't want to hold it. There's a menu that looks like the weapons wheel from the Ratchet & Clank series, and this is how you select your ladders, ropes, or your portable 3D printers. The words on the menu and heads-up display are really small. There's so much wasted real estate that could have been used to increase the text size. And I hate when games do that, when they make the text and menus and HUDs really small. However, there is going to be a patch for that, thankfully, but at the time of writing, it was not available. There also seems to be a lot of phone calls from people telling you what to do. There was one time I got like 3 calls in a row. All 3 characters telling me about the mission that I'm already on that they told me about before I left. There's an item degradation system in place for your boots, which isn't bad. It takes a while for them to wear out, but at the halfway point, you do get reminded a lot of it. Your packages can get damaged from falling over or from the time fall. It's a rain that shows up with the BTs and it ages anything that it touches. and you need to spray them with repair spray to fix them. Which this whole idea of timefall damaging the packages makes no sense in the context of the story, as the suits that the porters wear are immune to timefall. Why not just make the packages out of the same material, or make a tarp that can cover them? And why doesn't the water in the rivers age things? Wouldn't the timefall rain mix with the water? I don't know, this game is weird with its setting. And the degradation system isn't bad. I mean, you can recycle stuff to make new things like boots or repair spray so your packages can be repaired from the timefall. The 3D printing system is rather dumb. You use these devices called PCCs. They're the 3D printers, but you can only make one structure per PCC. So if you want to make a bunch of stuff, you're going to need multiple of them. And as someone who owns a 3D printer, it would be very stupid to have to buy a new one after each print. If I was making this game, I would have made it so that you only have one PCC as your tool, but you have to keep scavenging for stuff to recycle so that you could keep its materials filled. If it's empty, you can't print anything. Go find some more stuff to recycle to make more material. There's also a stamina meter that'll drain if you exert yourself through deep water, over rocks, or shaking off BTs as they try to drag you down to wherever they're coming from. You'll need to rest in your private rooms to restore your stamina, drink Monster Energy. Yes, actual cans of Monster Energy are in the game. And they give you like 5 cans, but you can only drink 3 for an extra 25% stamina boost. The BB can get stressed out and gets in danger of this weird syndrome that I forgot the name of, where it can poison itself. And if you don't take the time to soothe the BB by shaking the controller, it'll shut down and you won't be able to use it until you get back to a private room and wirelessly sync it with its brain-dead mother. Yeah, did I mention that this game was weird? There's also too many rocks and mountains in the game, especially when you go towards the Midwest. I've been to some of these areas in the real world. The furthest west I've been is Minnesota, but I know that the Midwest is pretty flat as it's a lot of farmland. It feels like they made you go through the more mountainous areas just for the excuse of having the need for a stamina meter. The game really does need a fast travel system though, especially when you have to travel back to the same locations just to drop off more packages. I mean, I get that you need to travel to an area first before you can use fast travel, but after I discovered that spot, please let me fast travel. Have me suffer some extra boot degradation for it. You can get a motorcycle to travel faster, but still, a fast travel system would have been better. You do need to manage the weight that you're carrying. If you have too much weight or the packages are stacked too high, you need to manage how fast you're moving. If you're running, you can fall over and drop your load, which will damage it and will upset BB. So you'll have to recollect your packages and then calm down BB so that it doesn't get stressed out. So you'll either be shifting your weight from one side to the other with L2 or R2, or you hold them both down at the same time, but you're going to move slower. The physics of this game are pretty spot on. You cannot stop on a dime at all, and with more weight, the harder it is to stop or turn. While I would sometimes get annoyed and maybe a little frustrated at this aspect because I was trying to get on a small ladder to cross a river, it's something that I liked as another one of those systems. It was a very nice touch. And speaking of systems, well, another one is a shared world type of thing. You will never see any other delivery people, but you will sort of interact with them, as you'll find things that they left behind, like ladders, ropes, post office boxes where you can find things they left for you, or you can leave things for them, you can return packages that they lost, and you can like the things that they leave behind, and they'll like the things that you leave behind too. It's a neat little thing for a single player game. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this game is weird and so is the story. But I'm not going to even begin to explain it. It's something that you have to experience, like most Kojima games. But it does make me wonder if he was a fan of that Schwarzenegger movie, Junior, because there's some weird male pregnancy fetish imagery in this game. So there's that little niche audience of the internet that's probably drooling over this game. There's a lot of cutscenes, especially in the beginning, like too many, and they were way too long. When I first started playing the game, I noticed that 3 hours had went by, but I'd only made 2 deliveries, which felt like it took 30 minutes to do those 2. The other 2.5 hours was nothing but cutscenes. When it comes to recommending this game, it's a hard sell. For one thing, the marketing was terrible for it. They kept what this game was about so under wraps that no one knew what it was about. I did make a joke about this game being a cooking simulator, but a lot of people have said that it's actually a walking simulator, when it's closer to a Pony Express simulator, if you want to give it a simulator label. The only thing I remember from the marketing was that Norman Reedus was holding a baby and crying, and that it was being made by Kojima's own studio. If you're expecting something along the lines of Metal Gear Solid, you'll be disappointed. Severely disappointed. If you're expecting a third-person action game, you're going to be waiting a long time for that action because you don't get weapons until much later. You gotta be the type of person that enjoys a lot of micromanagement in your games. And you gotta like a game that's a slow burn because I'm hearing that this one takes 40 hours from start to finish. And you'll also need to like really strange stories because, and I don't think I hammered this in enough, this game is weird. And before I end this and go on to the final score, Death Stranding kind of proves that Kojima needs someone over him to tell him no, and that Konami may have been a necessary evil to keep him from going too far with weirdness. Because I think if he's allowed to fully indulge himself, and is allowed to do everything he wants to do, you get a game that has a lot of micromanagement and is way too long for its own good, as this game can get boring and repetitive for some people. And with Kojima allowed to fully indulge himself in his desires, you kind of get a game that fits a very, very, very niche audience. But I will say, I would love to see Kojima make a game based on H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. I think he'd be the perfect person to make a Cthulhu game, and I would buy that on day one if he did, because with all the strange imagery in this game, Kojima is the only game developer who could accomplish that feat.
Death Stranding just isn't a game for everyone. It's a very, very niche audience. I mean, like this thin. I don't know if you can see it, and you probably can't, but this washer right here is about the target audience for Death Stranding. So, if you're reading a couple of negative reviews about it, or if there's someone saying they don't like it, you may want to take that with a grain to those really big blocks that they give animals to lick, size of salt.